All right, today is Tuesday, May 21st.
Cameron?
Yeah. Calling the meeting to order. Let's see, we're missing Nate for that meeting, Mr. Cliff. Everybody else?
I keep forgetting to go over there.
I'll sign your papers.
Sorry, totally.
That's it. Sign it.
Oh, yeah.
Should sign that.
Thank you.
$15.
Before we review the meeting minutes, I just want to let you guys know, so today at, it's like around noon time, like 1:30, Debbie sent me an email. It says they're having a workshop with Danielle Taylor, asking questions about marijuana ordinances. And they asked if I could drop by, so I did at 4:30. I answered some questions just strictly about the ordinance and why it didn't involve cultivation facilities, because that's her concern. And I told her that I talked with MMA, that them and the Southern Maine Planning said that it's a gray area. Caregivers have the implied right to cultivate, and that was the main reason that we didn't include Article 7.
I mean, to me, that means it's not even gray if it's an implied right.
Right.
You know, it's not even a gray area.
And I think furthermore, it wasn't part of the really, I mean, what we were addressing was very specific to the new pieces of LD 1530.
Were you able to satisfy any questions, or is there still some concerns, or?
So, I mean, she's concerned with the
Did you ask her why she didn't come to any of the meetings?
what's that, her?
Yeah.
She said, I think her work schedule
Okay.
came out for her. She's,
She's the Debbie over in Hiram.
right,
Same thing Debbie's.
yeah.
Baldwin.
And
Walden, sorry, Walden.
Yeah.
Duh.
So her concerns, I think, are based, they're not on a broad scale. She has concerns with a specific situation. And so she's trying to see how things would apply to that.
Right.
Does that make sense? So,
Called state.
yeah, that's what one of the recommendations was, and yeah.
That seems to be the issue in general. No one seems to have a major issue. Most people have issues with
Specific issues.
specific individuals
Yeah.
or locations. And that's,
But the reality is, we're really not, I mean, we can address that in a sort of general, specific way at best. I mean, general.
those are honestly, those are enforcement questions. And the enforcement of that is through the state.
Right, and I mean, like the general broad stuff that we've done, like as a planning board, has been the ordinance stuff, and if that's where we're kind of like limiting things, I mean, that's where we're doing our best we can with it.
Yeah, I think we gotta be careful not to exceed our warrant, you know, because basically we're dealing with the land use aspect of it.
Right, and so that was.
The clearer that becomes to people, the better for
Yeah,
everybody.
well, and that's what, so I did tell her, like, hey, this is specifically for accessory structures and their use. You know, that's what this ordinance covers. Now, like in the specific situation that you're looking at, you know, you're talking about something kind of outside of what this ordinance is, and so she was asking what could be further done, and I talked about if the medical ordinance does pass by town vote, the other two things that we as a board could look at would be the recreational ordinance drafted that I think I showed to you guys. It's the same as the medical.
Passed with that, right?
Right. I'm saying if.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be like an overarching like ordinance of how things can be enforced. So like those are down the road though. Those aren't included with this. So yeah. So I wanted to be clear about being with the selectmen, what was talked about, what you guys know. Okay. So first thing we're gonna do is review the meeting notes. I've got a couple to go through, unless you guys have anything.
I'm not sure most of them we got them already. Yeah.
Let me just go through everything.
Last workshop was just over here, so
Yeah.
it's just with us.
so you've read April, Ben? April?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good?
Yep.
All right, everybody's good with April? All right, so motion to accept the minutes is,
Second.
all right, all in favor? Unanimous vote? All right, so April, Tuesday is good. Let's go with Tuesday, May 7th. Let me know once you guys are ready.
7th, I think I saw that, because that was literally what, like a couple sentences?
Yeah, that was just you, 2, and 8.
All right, so you go with that, Brendan?
I'm good.
Good. Andy? Motion to accept the minutes as they are.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, unanimous. All right. Let's look through the public hearing minutes. What did they say? The first. Okay. Yeah, my pen won't find it.
No, that
Can you toss me a pen? And I reached through a chair instead of over. That's brilliant. Thank you. All right, so you still reading the minutes, Brendan?
I'm all set. All right.
You good with them?
I'm good.
You good? Andy? Okay.
I make a motion, we accept them.
Oh, I did wanna
Oh, you don't know?
tell you guys one thing about this.
On which? May
It's
9th?
not a change,
Okay.
just on
Well,
the,
May 9th?
yeah, on the May 9th meeting. So the Article 1 on there did get changed when it was sent over to the selectmen from a question format, from an article to just a preamble.
And that was cool. I mean, David didn't have any issues with that.
I don't think they will. We'll see.
I mean, did David, I mean, my assumption was that David produced that just for assistance, you know,
Right.
like just to say, hey,
Yeah.
you know, so we have something to look at. And obviously he had to kind of freelance it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think his only concern was like, namely Article 1 had to be in the form of a question, but where you
Right.
guys took it off. it
okay.
didn't really
So everything's good then. It meets spec as far as, you know,
We'll find out.
you can vote on it.
The selectmen still have to still go through it.
we did see it, most of us read it, we're gonna go through it again, make sure
Okay. Was that change in there?
that change was in there.
So I'll second your motion.
Right.
All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, so those are the meeting minutes and the public hearing minutes. Now, the workshop on May 7th, we can do that in a minute. I just,
Discussion topics.
yeah, did you still want to discuss something or do you want to wait?
Yeah, but we could do it at the end, and it doesn't look like we've got much to do, so why don't we talk through it?
Is it relative to what was on there?
Executive session, I want to go to executive session to discuss this.
You can't without a lawyer.
Huh?
You can't without a lawyer.
Really, man?
Yeah, you got a lawyer, absolutely. We have to announce it now. You can't go into
Okay.
session without a lawyer.
Oh,
I asked JP, so.
yeah.
Uh,
Hold on.
Could be wrong, but, yeah.
Okay, we can do it next month.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
it's nothing,
I mean, we
super time, it's more about process.
Sure.
So, we can get that.
Maybe we
Okay,
can, but we should.
yeah.
Okay.
So, meeting minutes are good. Review topics, discussion from the workshop, we'll do that really quick. So, did you guys all get the printout from the workshop? You got a printout?
Printout
The
meaning the-
proposed bylaws?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you gave me one.
Yeah.
Did you get one?
Not one.
Okay. I didn't put them in this new notebook. I'll print you out a copy tonight. From the workshop, what we discussed, it was Nate, Brennan, and I. Those bylaws were an example from MMA. And what I did was just kind of put it into like a town of Parsonsfield format. And that's gonna be our basis for us to develop our personalized bylaws. Everyone's been tasked with going through them, red inking it, making notes, and then our next workshop will just be a discussion of that to see if we can get a more finalized draft going on. Cool. So that's the,
Our only comment on that is the fact that they do exist somewhere, so we've been told, right?
Nobody's found them.
Nobody's
They don't exist. They may have existed
They may have existed.
in the past.
so, yeah, the most clear thing I got was from Marion, that she knows that they did exist. They were there when she was planning board chair, and she doesn't know where they are, and it doesn't matter anyway because they're outdated.
I mean, it seems
So
like
we're on the right
nobody's
course
seen
then.
these things in
Right.
over a decade, so
Yeah.
it's probably not really doing anywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I got. So, I don't know. And you haven't seen anything, have you, Lindsay? Or-
No, I mean, I've looked through up until, I think, 1985, so
No.
prior to 1985, I haven't found anything.
When I was on the planning board, we couldn't find them either, so.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I think, you know, even if they did exist, it's probably time to make some new ones, right?
Yeah.
And we'll start with that template.
Yeah, I think the last thing I saw was some charter thing in 1990 saying that bylaws will be established. There was like some town ordinance paper, but there was no copy.
Yeah, that was the year that everything was written.
Right.
Comprehensive plan,
So, yeah, we're
invention of the wheel.
we're going with the basic guidance from MMA, and then we're gonna build upon it to make it what we want. Now, in addition to that, the general bylaws, what I suggested, and Brennan and Nate agreed, and I wanted to get your guys' input, was once these bylaws are established, I think it would be a fair task for each month, like one member of the planning board, take a process and list it from A to Z, like something like posting an ad in the shopper's guide, you know, would be the process. And then step one, a little summary of why that needs to be done, like, hey,
He didn't frame this entirely, this is homework.
right,
Homework.
to be presented to the board like at that following meeting. And
You wanna do this one a month?
one a month, not not everyone.
Right, one person does it per month. The
Right.
only question about that is it's gonna take a long time to get it all done.
Yeah, but you only have to do once.
You know, why can't we do, 3 people do it, each take a separate
Or
task?
Andy, you could do like 3 tasks,
No, no,
1
no,
month,
that's not
and
what I
that would
suggested.
speed it up, and then like, we could all do one.
This is why we need to go into executive.
So 3 people,
In other words, how many tasks are there?
This is like-
Quite a few, right?
right, yeah,
So if we do one a month, we're gonna be stringing it out over a year if there are 12 tasks.
right.
I mean, you know, shouldn't we be a little bit more?
Aggressive?
Yeah.
I'd love to be, I don't know what you guys' temperament is as
No,
far
I
as
mean,
like.
okay,
Well,
so each-
it depends, are we gonna have public hearings every week, and
Right.
special town votes every week, and, I mean, if, at this point, we're like once a week, you know, in here.
I mean, most of the stuff, you can outline something like that in 15 minutes. If
Right.
you sit down and focus just on
Andy,
that.
now we're tired.
So let's say we change it from like, well, we go, what, 5 members, 6 members?
Yeah, everybody does.
Six, everybody does once a month.
Then
You know,
we
by
get
the
it
end of the year, you've got
done. Yeah.
50 processes, yeah.
I don't know
I'm
how
fine
many
with it.
processes there are, but there's more than.
I mean, anything we can think of that gets done needs to be written down somewhere in a standard
So there's no more
operating
short straw,
procedure.
we all.
So there's no more
short straw
question,
every month.
right, of how things are done. You know, that's been the stupidest thing since I came on the board, is like not being able to reference how things are done and relying on how things were done.
And some of this is gonna have to be run by other parts of the government structure,
Correct.
so that we confirm that it, you know, it does indeed belong here, and get them to confirm it, so, you know, we don't
Yeah,
have.
this is actually your responsibility. Yeah, and the other part of that too is like for each of us, it's gonna kind of give an education of things that we might not ever have to deal with, but need to understand. So I think it'll be beneficial. We'll see how it plays out. We'll define it once these bylaws are established. So, any questions on the workshop stuff? gentlemen?
I'm all set.
All right, so we do have a question from Mr. Anderson. I'll put it to the board. He'd like to be able to go through and ask each board member 5 questions. He said yes or no answer suffices. I imagine more than that can be said. I wanted to talk with you guys about it, so you see how you feel.
Wanna make a motion to entertain his question? Do something like that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure. Make a motion to entertain a question from Mr. Anderson.
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay, there you go.
Okay, little prelude here. I did live on Hussey sometime, and I still own property on Hussey. Therefore, I have been at every meeting concerning Hussey over, what, 2 years, maybe more than that, missing one, which I'm sure beats everybody on the planning board here. I'm not sure about everybody. I'm not sure about Mr. Stacy, etc., but I know I beat all of you guys. And I have, listened and been here all the time, and I recently heard about something that bothers me very greatly. And this is that Miss Lane has been accused of acting like a lawyer. So I have a couple of questions. And let me go across this way.
I do want to say before you start this, the accusation of Ms. Lane acting like a lawyer and the decision and letter that was sent to you wasn't from the planning board. That was from the.
No, I'm aware of that
Okay,
fact.
all right.
But as members of the planning board, you were the people that were involved in this, and therefore I want your opinions.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
Did Miss Lane ever claim to be a lawyer in here? Justin?
No.
Did any of you believe she was a lawyer?
I asked her if she was a lawyer, she told me she was not.
No, I didn't believe it.
Okay. I know Miss Lane was given permission to speak before the board by the board, is that correct?
On a few occasions.
Okay, now, this next one, there was the accusation that Miss Lane was disruptive, etc. I have never seen Miss Lane be disruptive at any of these meetings. If anything, I have seen her try to calm things down with Mr. Clifford. I don't know how many times I've heard her say, "Shut the hell up, Your Honor." I have not seen her disturb a single meeting, and like I said, I have seen more than all of you probably. Can any of you tell me about any disruption by Ms. Lane?
I can tell you in the email that I wrote Ms. Lane, I was very clear to say that her and her representative or her representee were disruptive, not Ms. Lane. And I invited her to come and speak with the select people with the issues that were going on at the time. Ms. Lane has not been disruptive. She has been incredibly respectful of the board process throughout the board, which has been great, and I've appreciated that.
Well, that's what I have observed too, and
Right.
yet I have heard
So
that she has been accused and of acting like a lawyer, etc. And my final question point, etc., is I don't believe everything you told me in school. But one of the things that I do believe, and that was that the citizens should take part in governmental functions. And so, do any of you believe Ms. Lane did anything that a citizen of our state or country does not have the right to do?
No, I don't.
I know she's not a lawyer, but that letter that went to the Attorney General's office,
I'm not aware of the letter until you bring it up.
Letter that went to the Attorney General's office?
Yes.
Or it came
Would
from
you-
the Attorney General's office?
no,
From,
from
not
the
the,
lawyer,
okay, but not from the planning board.
not from the planning board.
So we probably won't have much to speak on that.
Well,
You know?
since she was accused of acting that way with the planning board, I wanted to get everyone's opinion.
So I would go on record and say that I never thought Ms. Lane was a lawyer. As a matter of fact, I do believe she stated multiple times she wasn't. So, that I could just go on record and say that. I was never under the impression that she was a lawyer, and as a consultant, I think somebody would have the right to interpret the law. That would be my opinion. I would think somebody would be allowed to interpret the law and use it and defend against
I
it.
would certainly think so, and if I saw something that bothered me, etc., I would think I had the right to go to the authorities and say, I believe what is happening here is against the law.
So I'll say that I understand that I think that you're under the impression that the planning board has accused Ms. Lane of acting as a lawyer.
We got it.
Yeah, you got a copy here.
Yeah,
That big issue that occurred, like that went into executive session, Ms. Lane, like, you're not the only one that you interacted with, we're not the only people that you've interacted with, you know? Like, so there's been multiple FOIA requests, there's been emails to the town lawyer, there's been other stuff. So I understand that you're asking us, but from me, just answer your questions. She has never represented herself to be a lawyer. I know that.
And yet, if you read this,
Well, and I can attest to the same thing, that's all I can attest to because I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
This was written by a lawyer, okay,
Hired gun.
addressing legal issues.
This
So,
letter-
well, look, he's a lawyer. I'm not gonna argue whether they're legal issues or not because I'm not a lawyer. So,
well, neither am I,
right,
but,
so, I mean, you're asking us, I think it feels like you're asking us to, I don't know, somehow respond to something that an attorney wrote.
Right.
Who didn't write it on our behalf, so.
no, I'm asking for your opinion on this because he gives, the impression that what she was doing was illegal because she was acting as a lawyer. And I certainly did not see anything that approximated that. I saw comments being made that I think any citizen had a right to make.
But, Mr. Anderson, there's a question of standing though, okay? I'm not gonna act like a lawyer here, but there is a question of standing. Ms. Lane's coming here as an advocate for a member of the town, okay? We've allowed that and it's fine. She's also coming as a colleague from a neighboring planning board, and we welcome that kind of input because we.
That I'm not coming as a colleague.
But
From a
you are a
neighboring
colleague on another planning board, and we recognize that, which gives you some standing. So, that's well and good, but the lawyer's sitting here, he's observing, and apparently this is what he's taking away, rather than our presentation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he was present at some of these, I don't know. Some of
Maybe
these-
about 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
In what, dozens of meetings. And
Regardless, they're his
to
observations.
observe something a few times and then draw total conclusions has to be something that's a bit ridiculous.
Well, I think the fact that we have all said that we didn't think she was a lawyer is probably all we can say. She never presented herself as a lawyer to us. I think now that I guess that's public record at this point. I don't know I understand this has got you upset because you've been accused of something you don't feel you're guilty of. And I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right. I don't think anybody else has agreed with it. What you do from here, I don't know. But I think we're all on record as saying that nobody thought you were a lawyer.
Thank you.
I know, I'll say that on record. I never thought you were a lawyer.
I did, but I asked, and she clearly defined immediately she was not.
I did the first time I met you, but then you defined that you were on the planning board, and I was like, okay, she knows her stuff.
I know.
Well,
but I
I've
knew she wasn't,
also
so.
worked for the Saco River Quarter Commission as the zoning officer for 20 towns for 5 years. And I would copy the Attorney General's office on letters regarding people in violation of the South River Recorder Act. So I have a long history of working with regulation and that type of thing, and being paid to, you know,
Yeah.
do the job of the zoning officer. So having knowledge in something doesn't make you something else.
No, but I will say, and I'm not countering a point, I'm not saying anything other than the planning board stuff. This letter, again, was written by the town lawyer, and the verbiage in here, like, addresses what he saw. He said, statements the planning board began as mixed legal and factual presentations, became increasingly legal advocacy. That's
Okay.
what,
That's
For
his
a long time, I was here regarding the Levitt plantation, so that part that I came in that way in that letter is not correct.
okay.
But none of you were here 2 years ago, so.
And if we were, it wouldn't matter because
Right.
we didn't write the letter, and it's not. I'm not gonna entertain much beyond answering the simple questions, only because this is somebody else, a lawyer wrote this, not me. Didn't come from us, didn't interview us, didn't say,
Did,
didn't ask us for words or anything. This was written by a lawyer.
Well,
That's a
there's-
good point. We weren't
I
asked
wasn't-
anything about it.
Were you
Never
asked
us.
I haven't
No.
given input on this
you haven't given,
before,
did
and I don't feel
anybody
like we will now.
give input on this?
I was part of an executive session about this issue.
Was the board consulted on that?
They couldn't be consulted because it was an executive session.
We weren't there.
Well, I mean, you know, to get their views. I don't mean,
We just told you, this is the first.
He
time
wasn't
from-
asked by the board to give an opinion for us. This is his opinion. These are his words. He wrote this. This is his letterhead. This is his letter. Didn't come from us. Okay?
Yeah.
As an attorney, he witnessed this. It's all I can surmise because I haven't been party to any of this. He witnessed what he witnessed, he described, and they're his opinions.
well, as far as,
But he's a lawyer, I'm
Yeah.
not. So his opinions with law probably have a little more merit than mine. Probably. You would think.
yeah, you would think. However, I know he was not at any of the early planning board meetings. It has only been relatively recently that he has attended them. And I don't know, I see him as a hired gun for someone. I don't know who. But this is intimidation in my mind.
Yeah.
Tiffany.
I have a little information for you. Number one, David Laurie is hired by the town, he's the town attorney. Number two, Ms. Lane sent letters to our attorney via email that she was not authorized to do, and this is where he took issue, because he can't get paid by anybody. She was not authorized to send them, and in fact, the select board is the only board that can authorize anybody to spend town's money. And we can't authorize, that's the fact, Corey. We cannot authorize somebody who is not an official of the town. So you have to be, number one, an elected official or an appointed official. We could authorize David to contact the town attorney. I can authorize Debbie because she works for us. She's an employee of the select board. You have to come to me or the whole board and ask us permission to contact the town attorney. And in fact, you have done that when you had the town attorney here concerning Watson Woods and other issues. But that's the reason, and I can't say any more than that because it was executive session. That is the reason that Mr. Laurie gave us for feeling as if we were acting as an attorney. Besides what he witnessed in this room.
I mean, this is also bringing up a more structural question about the planning board's relationship to the governance structure as a whole. There have been numerous issues where you've been in an executive session with the select board, and we get it after the fact, sometimes more, sometimes less. I think that process needs to be looked at so that there's a better flow of information. We don't get blindsided like this with something that's happened that concerns us, and, you know, we find out about it after the fact. I mean, Mr. Laurie has the right to write this letter. He can do that, whether we approve or not.
Yeah.
But I think we have the right to know that it's been read before.
Because of the executive session, you
No,
I
cannot.
can't.
That's the state law,
That-
cannot.
I mean, like, I understand, like, it must be frustrating to get news after the fact, because like, I would feel like, shit, I'm supposed to be part of a team for a board that, and I'm not getting the information, but I don't not share things with you guys, because I don't want to.
I'm not faulting you,
Yeah.
Jason.
No,
I'm just pointing out that this is becoming an issue.
Yeah.
It may become more of an issue.
The select board is the executive branch, okay, of the town governments. We are the chief executive branch of the town governments, and everything has to go through the select board. I didn't like it when I was on the planning board, because there were things that I wanted to get for the planning board, chairs and other stuff that we couldn't do because we had to go through the select board to get it. You can ask them, but they could also deny it. Unfortunately, that is the way the hierarchy is set up in the state as well as in the individual towns. We have home rule. You can write certain ordinances to say a member of this board can't serve also as a member of that board, etc. But as far as who you go through and executive sessions, there are clear laws about that. And freedom of information, there are clear laws about that. So I gotta follow the law. And it was a concern of our town attorney.
If I may, JP, I requested this in the Freedom of Information Act. I got it. I don't see why the rest of the board was kept in the dark about it if I could get it.
Which kept in the dark, though, with this letter?
Yes,
Oh,
the rest of the board stated that they had not been informed of this.
So,
And if I can get informed of this by getting a copy, which is what I did,
yeah,
Well, you got a copy after you found out about it.
right.
no.
So
I knew.
You just in your mind knew that this had happened, so you went for it?
No, I had heard
Okay.
that there had been
Right.
a letter to Miss Lane through the,
Right.
from the Attorney General's office, and I went to the town office here and asked what communication there was between the executive board and the Attorney General, and I got that. I wanted to know what the heck was going on, because I had been
Because you
here.
knew something, but it pertained to something that happened in executive session, so it wasn't
Which
like
I
it was.
can't just-
The way, it doesn't just get talked about, you know, that you had heard something or you were informed, so then you know,
I heard
that we
through
weren't
the-
in that situation. so
I
it's
heard through the
different.
grapevine
Okay,
that there had been an announcement from the Attorney General to Miss Lane, et cetera, where there was a threat of legal action. And I was astounded by this, and I wanted to get to the root of it. And I applied at the office, and I got this after about 3 days. And I find it totally inappropriate.
I would encourage you to schedule a meeting with the select board to discuss.
I am
it.
considering that.
Yeah.
possibly.
I mean,
Attorney General's
honestly,
office.
like, it's good to get clarity from us, but we're not a decision.
No, I just
And-
wanted to
and
know
also-
where some of this came from.
And there's not a lot of context for me because I don't have the letter that this pertains to in my hands either. So you're talking about something you thought was inappropriate.
Would you
You're
like-
making a comment of it, but again, I haven't seen the letter. We haven't seen that letter, and
Would you care to see it?
no, because it's private. And
Well,
if
I was
if Ms.
given-
Lane wants to share it,
I
would
heard
ask-
it.
I don't.
Would you care to share?
That would be up to
Sling?
her. That's her. It's I mean,
I'm
That's
not
your
sure which
decision.
one you're talking about, but
The one that-
I would say, the.
The one from the Attorney General.
No, I'd rather
Okay,
them
yeah,
not
I
to
mean,
get
it's
it.
No,
not.
that's
There's
yours.
no
They have to
context
get
for
it.
me as a board member to say, oh, I need all this information. And that's-
Yeah,
that's
they can
private.
access it
Okay,
Yeah,
if they want to.
yeah.
So, and I will say, the last correspondence that you got from me, like, in regards to representing Mr. Gerard, I'm sorry, Clifford, was that you could continue to attend meetings as his representative, and you're encouraged to do so. That's in the email, that's FOIA, right?
Yeah, I guess it is. The FOIA thing gets me because this planning board has not released any of the documents regarding the approval of the Wadsworth subdivision.
We
so-
don't release documents, the FOIA
Okay,
officer for the
But
town releases
you are the
documents.
planning board, I see it as the board's documents.
Well, I mean, you got,
Well, that's fine,
you got a
that's
copy of
not-
the email from me to you, so like,
Oh, I
you
got
don't,
that.
you don't have to go through FOIA for it.
No, I have that.
Okay.
I have that.
The FOIA officer for the town is
David.
David, yeah.
Yeah.
So all FOIA requests need to go through him. He is the FOIA officer for the
I
town.
realize that, but the documents aren't being released.
Okay, but that's not by us. We don't.
But as a plan, like if I was on this planning board, it should be a concern to you. Because it's procedure,
I don't even know what you've requested.
Right.
Well,
everything.
if I could just say.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
everyone says I requested everything, but like, I don't know what everything is. Honestly,
Validate
If I could just say
information.
real quick, FOIA requests just go to David and that's it.
yeah.
And if
Right.
David, if it's like, I wanna know what JP emailed, David's gonna contact JP and say, you know, but it goes to the FOIA officer. The planning board might not even know you made that request unless it.
Probably not.
And that's what I'm saying, is I don't know what everything that you requested is. I've never, well, I shouldn't say I've never, I've seen a couple requests that we've answered back to David to send out back to you, but, yeah.
I want to come back to your statement, Ms. Anderson, about the town lawyer being a hired gun. Would you care to expand on that?
It appears, and this is merely my opinion, but it appears that what has happened here is almost an attempt at suppression of a certain viewpoint on this. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know even if it truly exists. But this is the impression I have of this. And that's what it looks like to me. Am I correct on that? I can't tell you for certain, one way or the other. But I can see no other reason for this to be done. Maybe there is one. I don't know.
I don't know what we or I could say to that, but I can assure you that I don't think anyone from this town government or that I know even in this community would want to shut somebody's voice out solely based because they have an opinion. It's not to shut somebody up.
Well, I would certainly hope that's the case.
Yeah.
If I may, I think you should make an appointment, call Debbie, and come see us. I think you should. Not solve some of it. I don't know how much of it we can talk about, but at least some of it could be solved.
Maybe you'll get some answers there that we can't give you, actually.
Oh, I'm sure that I know there's a lot of answers that you guys don't know.
Right.
And, you know, heaven forbid, I'm not about to accuse any of you of this. Not at all. I don't think, I just wanted to know where you were on what you observed and what you thought.
I just think that what you bring raises a lot of questions, regardless of the mechanism of the law and the way it's written. It's always administered differently according to how people view it. It's not an absolute. And the fact that, particularly around this particular, you know, we're talking about one particular application before the board, there's been a lot of back talk sort of swirling around about, you know, this one is in this one's pocket and that. And for us to be in a position where we can answer these questions sort of perpetuates that and makes that kind of an atmosphere where it's not clear how these decisions are being made. If it's not clear to us.
I don't agree with that. So
Go ahead.
I don't. I just feel like that's just not our purview. That's, you know what I mean? Like,
You know,
to this.
I honestly, like, we've been dealing with this application for almost 2 years. And for me, like, when I came in, I was extremely concerned about the allegations of conspiracy and like bribery and all this stuff. And then, you know, having worked on this and done the right thing and seen like the people I've worked with on this do the right thing to try and make sure that this is meeting this ordinance or this ordinance, and we're checking this block and that block. Like, I don't know any other town that's taken this long to go through an application and at the same time have all these accusations on the side, the conspiracy stuff is going on. Like, at some point for me, I just have to say, you know what? All these things, I understand there might be like this murky looking action from this side, but we're doing the right thing. You know, I don't know anybody here on the board that hasn't done the right thing. I don't. I know we make mistakes, but they're on an individual
See,
level
but-
in interpretation.
Listen to what you're doing right now, which is defending the board. And we're always in a position of doing that. We're often in a position of doing that, being attacked, being suspected.
Okay.
I think that needs to be laid to bed, and that's what I was asking for.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
Get rid of, you disband the planning boards.
Right.
And there's no way, I mean, it's part of it. It's gonna happen. There's gonna be those hot button things. I mean, hey, I mean, let's face it, other than this, tonight would have been done, you know what I mean? You gotta take your wins and your losses. I mean, if you wanna be in this position, you're gonna have people disagree with you, you're gonna have people tell you that you're corrupt, that you don't know what you're doing, that you can't remember anything, or you name it, it's all on record. We've been, this is part of it. I think the only way to get rid of it is to just not have it, there's no way, it's part of it.
I don't.
It's just part of the job.
The thing
That's why
that
nobody wants to do it.
I've always heard is like a
Oh,
fair
well,
business
fine.
deal. Like no party's happy in the end. You know, like everybody's pissed off because everybody's lost out on something. I'm not saying like.
There are many of these applications, especially like certain types, they're gonna have winners and losers on them, or people that feel like they're winners and losers, just the way it is. You can't, there's gonna be people that are unhappy, and sometimes it only takes one or two, and.
So I said I'm definitely open to ideas about more transparency though, Andy. I am. If you've got some, I'd love to hear them. You know, like I've been trying to do what we can. I'm putting this on video.
I think you're doing fine. I don't have any criticism of you. I just think that there's some, maybe stuff that you don't understand, and, as planning board members that we're starting to understand, like how things are broken down, and we have to get comfortable with, so we don't have to feel defensive about them. Or else maybe there's, more need for,
Bylaws.
I don't know if bylaws will address it.
Comfortable with what kind of stuff? Can you give an example?
Well, for instance, what are our powers as related to the powers of the select board? How are we subordinate to them? How does information get exchanged with them? All that kind of stuff. To me, I thought it was a little bit more open than it seems to be.
I think it depends on what the nature of what's being talked about,
Fair enough.
I mean, that's why I don't wanna know certain things, because it's personal. It's personnel or personnel. And those are definitely like executive matter, for sure. Just like, like at a job, I mean, if any one of us does something that the other members feel is egregious, it's not something we would talk about
Right.
in public. That would have to be because, that is, you're talking about somebody's reputation and you're making accusations or whatever. So, those types of things have to happen in the executive session.
That's the
Always.
law.
They should always, absolutely.
So
To
I
respect
think-
anybody and everybody's privacy,
I think that's a good law.
And
I think we should have a parallel process here in terms of limiting the kind of stuff that goes on in these meetings. Because a lot of what's happened here has been that people get up and they start slinging mud. I don't think that it's productive for us to tolerate that. And to a large degree, we have. I'm not talking about Corey Lane specifically, or Gerard Clifford or anybody, but it's a practice that people feel free to come in here and say, oh, you guys don't know nothing. I think we got to tighten up our process, as we've talked about, so that what's talked about here is factual and relevant to what we've got on board. And we can sort of slowly, through acting, as you said, through following the ordinances and doing what we're supposed to do, but also through how we conduct ourselves, not being on the defensive all the time. Clear this kind of murky atmosphere.
Right. I think, but to some degree, and I've witnessed this as an observer and as a member. I will say, and certainly it's in my tenure on the board, which is limited at this point, you know, there's been a market increase, and I think, or, well, increase in, I don't know what's the term, hurting, market decrease in what you're talking about, I think. And I think JP has actually led that charge pretty aggressively. And it's difficult when you have people that, you know, are just gonna insult you regardless of how many times you tell them not to. And, you know, you just gotta take it. I mean, and it's not, we're not talking about one individual here, I just wanna make that clear. I can think of numerous. I can think of several at the time. You know what I mean? And it's either we put up two-way glass and, you know, when we press the button, they can speak, or it's, you know, and I think a lot of that was pretty loose. When I remember like a year ago, I'd come to meetings and I was like, are these public hearings or are these just working planning board meetings? And I would say that, I honestly, like, I've seen that really change. And it's not an easy thing to fix. It's not going to go away overnight. But I think it takes a lot of discipline on, you know, us as a board and leadership to kind of be really clear about, this is what we're doing tonight. This is a working meeting, you know. I mean, it's tough because these are open to the public, but a lot of people interpret that as it's a public meeting that I can participate in. Well, yeah, if you consider watching and listening and participating, that's all you're really entitled to do. And, you know, so every time you allow, you know, input when we're not sort of set up to deal with that, and we haven't kind of, you know, created a system for that for the night, I think it gets away from us, and that's just, you
So
know.
that's kind of what I'm advocating, is that we set up a system, a very clear system, of when
Yeah.
people speak, who's speaking.
Yeah.
So, you know, it doesn't have, when people come in, they recognize that that's what the atmosphere is. I don't want to close it down at all. When I used to sit in the audience before I was on the board, I always wanted to talk,
Right.
you know, I mean, it's natural.
Well, so this is kind of the boomerang effect. So like when I first came on the board, I think Rick, you too, like, the public wasn't really allowed. They didn't feel like they had a voice at all. And you know, like we opened it up, and I think maybe we went a little bit too far right, maybe, and now we're gonna swing it back to the middle. Yeah. So I do agree with that. It's just gonna take some creativity, because like the last thing I want to do is stifle anyone's voice, but at the same time, you know, it's a balancing act to keep things, number one, on topic and relevant from people when you have so many varied opinions on an issue. But one thing I did want to bring up, other than, the marijuana ordinance that we've been working on and the Wanton Woods subdivision, I really can't think
Nobody
of-
cares.
Right.
Nobody cares.
I don't know of any other contentious issues that we're being defensive on.
It's really only a few people that care about those.
You're right.
Break it right down.
I mean, those are the two like big ones we've worked on the last year, but other than the other actions we've
Everything else
done.
has been spoken, pretty much.
Right. I'm not saying there's not room for improvement, I'm just saying like those.
But
those
I mean, I hear what you're saying, Andy. I mean, I've been a big advocate of that in my mind, but I feel like I've seen it start to happen a little bit more. Like I definitely came to this meeting before I was on the board, and I was like, whoa, I don't want to do this. If this is like, it'd be like this every night. I mean, you know, I'm gonna be at midnight being yelled at every night. I don't want to do that.
So, one thing, like, if you could, like, structure the agenda different, would that help?
Yeah, I think so.
If we put an agenda item, like public comments and questions at the end?
I think we're gonna make it, that would be good, but I think we also make it a little bit more flexible, so that if we have an issue where somebody's showing up as an advocate specifically to talk to that, we give them a certain amount of time to talk.
So the only thing, like, if it's an advocate for something that's not on the agenda?
No, it's just gotta be what's
Okay.
on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're starting to get into like what we need to start doing anyway.
Right.
But I think it's just really important that, I mean, I don't want to hammer it anymore, but at the beginning, at the outset of the meeting, we're just really clear about the ground rules. Because I don't really care what gets talked about or agenda or not personally, but I do care about the manner in which it happens. You know, I mean, that's all. You know, and I'm a big fan of having a really clear line in the sand when it comes to decorum and what's acceptable. Because otherwise, it's just it's no fun for anybody, and there's no need. You know.
Yeah, a comment,
So-
question, Tiffany?
Yeah, just to make you guys feel better, we have been hearing comments in that room about this board, and they've all been positive. So No, this is, and the reason
Those
why.
bribes are working.
No, nobody said anything really nasty about you guys. They said they were happy with the way the board's going. They think that you're taking control of the meetings better, which was my other comment. When I was on this board, it was way the other way. We lost control, people were making comments, they were yelling at us, they were disrupting the meetings, they were getting nasty, okay? Then we went, well, I was off the board at that point, too far the other way. Nobody could make comments, nobody could do anything. I think you guys are finding your happy medium, and to your comment, Andy, there's always gonna be people that are gonna be unhappy with stuff. There's always gonna be people that are gonna try and be disruptive and everything else. I think you're doing it the right way, that's all I can say. I think I think you're heading in the right direction for us in there, and I think the law is the same for you. You only have to cover what's on the agenda, and for us, we don't even have to put things on the agenda if we don't want. So I think that may be the situation for you, with the exception if somebody comes to you with an application. But if somebody if I come in here with my big mouth and start talking.
Like we
You
just
don't
told
have to.
Steve, we're not gonna take it.
That's fine, but that's up to you, that's up to you guys, you know what I'm saying? It's not up to people here because it's your meeting. It's not a public hearing, it's not a town meeting, it's not a special town meeting, it's your meeting, so you get to decide.
Working.
Same with us in there. So that's it, I'll shut my mouth.
So, I think this is a really good discussion, and I think that the way that we can work on this a little bit further is with those bylaws. If you guys could write some comments about how we could structure that better, that'd be good. I'll make sure we get a copy for you right after the meeting. But I'm also open to other suggestions, and I think it would be beneficial if we can hash this out. What else? What else we got? Were there any more questions from you? There was something we were going to discuss. Okay, we discussed the,
Let's discuss everything on the agenda.
right,
Other business.
other business.
Oh, I don't know, there
You're set, right?
were any invitations sent out to the Watson Woods people about discussing,
Oh yeah, so I sent the email out to David Laurie,
right?
and I haven't got anything back. I haven't followed up with him yet.
Well, I gotta imagine we'll hear from them next month. You know, it's June, I'm sure they wanna get rolling, so.
You would think so. So I looked at, if you look in the letter, the last date that they can put forward like a final plan is in September. They have like 6 months from a decision.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, you'd think it'd be sometime this summer. But I haven't heard anything from them. I haven't heard from the town lawyer. I haven't heard anything. So, yeah, that's where we stand on that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, I talked with the select board about painting the room. Can't hire somebody to do it, but we can get the supplies paid for. And if any of you guys would like to volunteer your time with me,
Volunteer.
It's like a
I would
meeting,
love
so
some
it costs
help.
$15 to show up.
They lock the door, get a couple six packs, no, I'm just kidding.
I
So-
didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Camera did.
I haven't set a date of when I'm gonna do that. The hardware store over in Cornish is gonna take a look what they have. They have meeting on special right now.
Go to the one at Parsons Field, keep the money in town.
Yeah.
Go see the Mennonites.
That's not where our town count is.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
And Jim lives in Parsons, at least 50 people.
Right. Yeah, so I'll put out a date on Distro, and if you guys can make it that day, please do, and if not, I understand, but I've got to get this room looking better. So. What's that?
Do we, anybody else have any questions?
Comments, concerns?
No.
Lindsay? Do you have anything we owe you?
Let's do that right now.
Okay.
Any timelines we got taken right now? But as far as stuff, applications, anything like that, meeting other people, I don't know. No?
Oh, so, has any action been taken forward with getting people like, checks cut that were owed money?
Yes,
Okay.
actually, that's been done. Everyone's been reimbursed.
Okay,
So,
that's awesome.
so all the escrow accounts are
So,
Well, for the last 3 years.
3 years was the audit we did. Were you here for that meeting? Went through it? So Lindsay did an audit of the last 3 years of people putting in applications before the planning board. Excuse me, she found out a number of people weren't reimbursed their application fee, what was left over after the site review. So we got a whole bunch of people reimbursed, and the accounts look decent. So the next step from here on the budget side of things, I need to set up an appointment with Lindsay and Debbie to understand how we rectify our budget, how we clear it out. Because the way that it works right now is the applicants put a fee to the CEO or the town clerk, they put it in a special escrow account, but anything that's charged towards their application comes out of our budget. And then we somehow pull that money from that escrow account and put it into our budget to close it out. Yeah, so I've got to find out like how that physical process works, and then we need to do that and make sure that we open up our budget to pay for some more things.
One thing I will say
More
about
lawyers.
escrow, the board can determine what the escrow fees are, and you might want to determine increasing it, only for the fact that the Shopwood Guide ads are getting more and more pricier. I think they've upped their rates a little bit.
They give
So
us a discount when
our-
they misprint it?
They will, yeah, and they have. But I
Like a
mean,
date
I
wrong.
think if you're doing like a public hearing ad, depending on what it is, you have to, by law, write certain descriptions in there. So now you have a specific size ad and it's like, comes up to be like $180, but our escrow fee is $150. So we're not collecting enough money to cover, we need to at least cover like postage for butters and maybe like one newspaper ad.
Can you take a look, can you make a list of the fees that are commonly being charged out of the escrow accounts? And what they total up to? And by next meeting, we can take a look at that number, and then we can take a vote whether we recommend to increase it to a certain amount or not.
Right. It might help to have some context, like what she just said about it does cost $180 for 2 days, but we're only
Well,
charging
it's-
$150.
One of the reasons why I say that is when somebody, if you guys approve an application, but there's money owed on the escrow account, so they didn't cover the full cost of something, once it's approved, it wouldn't be right for the town to go to someone and say, you owe us money.
Ah.
We need to
Leverage.
get that money received before the approval of their application, or figure out something how to kind of,
That makes
Since your
sense.
approval,
That makes sense.
$40.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that makes sense. I mean,
Well, it happened.
we can't be resolving this.
The audit.
They don't get approval without paying.
So-
So yeah, she found a couple of accounts that
Some people owe us money,
not anymore because we said we're not gonna go out.
Yeah, how do you ask someone 3 years ago, you owe us money from 3 years ago, you know?
But
doing an audit.
we did refund money to people from 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot easier to do. It's just a lot easier to
July
do.
1st, does it work with July 1st, the budget?
It does, yeah.
But what if there's money left over, does it go back to the general fund?
That's a good question.
Or is it like military?
If
We gotta
there's money,
spend it
if there's
all.
money left over in our budget, does it go to the general fund?
It does, and we took care of that situation with our roads by creating a reserve account. You might want to consider coming in and talking to us about that.
Okay.
Because we're gonna start having budget meetings for next year's budget, like soon.
Can you talk with Debbie and find a good day, maybe next week or week after? And then shoot just an email to the board as a whole. Anybody that wants to come understand the budget, please come with me to that meeting, and we'll sit down and we'll talk about both a reserve fund and how to clear it out. Please.
Okay.
All right. Is there anything else you can think of? Okay. And we did get our laptop up and running too. So,
Wonderful.
all right. Unless we go board by board member, Brendan, you got anything?
No. Oh, well, yeah, no, we don't want any other questions, right? I'm good.
Andy? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. Meeting's adjourned, 8 o'clock.
Question.